Welcome back to AM Northwest. You know, when wildfires break out, elite hotshot crews are among the first on the scene. During the wildfire season of 2020, our next guest was a rookie, the only woman on her crew, and at 38, among the oldest. Here to share her story, we welcome the author of Wildfire Days, Kelly Ramsey. Great to have you with us, Kelly.
Great to be here.
What got you interested, first of all, in being a hotshot? And it's a very different, I mean, when you fight wildfires, it's very different than home fires, say.
Yeah, you're going sort of deep into the woods, deep into the backcountry, carrying everything you need on your back and, you know, creating fire line. I was working for the Forest Service already as a wilderness ranger.
Okay.
And I lived in a government barracks with a bunch of women who were firefighters. And so I saw them going off to fires and coming home, and they just seemed so fulfilled by the job, so enlivened by the work. And I was like, they seem really strong, and
right.
They seem just so, it seemed so cool. And so I got intrigued because of that, and also because I was seeing a lot of fire on the Klamath National Forest where I worked at the time.
Right.
And I got intrigued also by sort of the phenomenon of fire and by how we fight it and how we manage it.
Okay, so you get accepted at 38. Did they have any idea you were 38? I mean, you look very young, so I'm guessing that they had no idea you were 38.
I think probably the people who hired me had to know because, you know,
oh, yeah, that's
it's
true.
in
You
the
see the birthday,
paperwork.
yeah.
But yeah, the majority of the crew, I think, had no idea, and it kind of came out some weeks into the job, you know, that I was more than a decade older than most people.
Okay, this is a very tough physical job. So how did you get yourself ready, physically prepared?
Yeah, so I trained for about 6 months before I even showed up for work. So a lot of what you do is hiking up really steep slopes, carrying at least 45 pounds on your back.
Right.
Often you want to carry 60 or 70 pounds. A lot of running hills, weight training, push-ups, pull-ups, sit-ups, dips, leg lifts.
Yeah, wow.
Wall sits, you know, so it's basically this like training montage I've been saying.
Yeah.
And you do that about 6 days a week for 6 months, and then you show up as a crew and you train together for at least a month before you go on a fire.
How was the experience working with all men? You were the only one at the time on your crew.
Yeah.
How was that experience? Did they treat you well?
My crew really did. So that is not necessarily common in the Forest Service. I know a lot of women who have had really rough experiences, so I don't want to...
Especially fighting wildfires. Usually it's a different animal.
Yeah.
Wildfire fighters, yeah.
Totally. And I think I got really lucky. I had a lot of great guys on my crew, really respectful. It definitely was awkward at first. You know, guys have a certain way that they are with each other,
right.
And then you introduce a woman, and they hadn't had a woman in 10 years. So they didn't really know how to like engage with me, how to talk. And I had to be like, hey guys, I'm pretty normal. I'm a personable person. Like,
right.
You can interact with me. You don't have to avoid me. So that took a while, and then I also had to prove myself, you know, physically and in terms of my work ethic. And I think as I started to do that, a month or so in, that shifted things in every way.
How does it work when you, like, for instance, how many days are you out in the wildfires? How many days are you home?
So 14 days is the standard assignment, but that's just kind of the base. You
right.
can be extended to 21 or more days, and then you have travel time usually to and from the fire. So you're usually gone at least 16 days, and then you have 2 or 3 days off, and then you go out again in a busy season.
Describe a typical day.
So you work...
Because it's a lot of labor.
Yeah, so you work a 16-hour shift, and you're either on a chainsaw or part of a saw team where you're cutting down trees and brush and creating this corridor to build fire line, or you have a hand tool, which I was one of these people, and you're in what's called the dig, and you're creating the actual line itself. It's like a scrape of dirt that's 2 feet wide.
Yeah.
And then we also did a lot of burning. So you do a back burn or a backfire, which is when you light off of that line toward the main fire.
I'm looking at these pictures and I'm thinking, first of all, it's smoky, it's dirty, you're probably uncomfortable. At times you probably have to sleep out there.
Oh,
right?
all the time, pretty much all the time.
All the time. What was that like? And when you were done at the end of the day, possibly, or how did you feel at the end of the day?
I mean, tired, but great. I really love, and I think most people who do this job, I really love hard manual labor, or that's what I learned. And to me, there's nothing more satisfying than a day spent, you know, bent over digging and your body is just absolutely used up, but you know that you're trying to contribute to the good, right?
Right, absolutely. Yeah. And then personally, what was that like for you? You go home, you have, I think at the time, a boyfriend, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. How was that for the two of you?
It was difficult. We both were fighting fire on, different crews, so we would constantly miss each other. One person would go out for 14 days. By the time they come home, the other one's gone for 14 days. So it's a real strain on a relationship, and a lot of people in fire experience that. It's difficult for people with small children, hard on families. So
you get very personal in the book. You also bring up your father. You two had kind of a tough relationship.
Yes. Yeah. My father was an alcoholic and eventually became homeless. And I think I didn't quite realize it at the time, but I think a part of why I ended up, sort of going out to the woods, moving out to California, going into the woods and doing this incredibly tough job, it was, that searching impulse. Like, I was trying to find a place to belong. I was trying to find myself in many ways. So I think there's a through line between my childhood and my father and ending up in this job.
Right. In the second year, didn't you bring on another woman to work with you on the crew, but that didn't quite work out.
Yeah.
Like you would think, sisters.
Right.
This is great.
Best friends.
Best friends, yeah.
Yeah. Sadly, it wasn't like that. At first, we were friends, but I had, a certain way of doing things. I really wanted to assimilate, kind of be one of the guys.
Right.
Do the work in the way that I was being asked to do the work. And she had a different idea. And in hindsight, I could have respected that more. I could have just said, you do you.
Yeah.
Do the job your way. But I thought that she needed to do the job kind of the way I had. And so we really butted heads.
Oh.
And, I just was like, we need to show up and give everything of ourselves to prove what women can do here.
Right.
And that's not necessarily true.
That's a big responsibility.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a burden.
Yeah.
And she didn't want to be that person, And so I could have just been like, I will overprove myself in order to vindicate all women, but you don't have to.
You came, there were close calls too, right?
Yeah. A couple times we had tree strikes. So a tree will burn out at the base and then fall, into the fire line.
Yeah.
I had a tree hit one of my colleagues when he was standing right next to me and, hit him in the head. And there was a very scary moment there where, we thought he could have been paralyzed, had a spinal injury. He ended up being okay, spoiler, but things like that are pretty terrifying, and they happen to wildland firefighters all the time.
Yeah.
And not everyone is so lucky.
No, absolutely. Well, I appreciate the work you did, really. We want to tell everyone you have a book event tonight at Powell's City of Books in downtown on West Burnside. We're going to put all the information for you on our website at katu.com. The book again is titled Wildfire Days. Kelly Ramsey, thank you very much. Fascinating read.
Thank you so much.
All right, we'll be right back with more AM Northwest. Don't go away.